noticed in the news there's many people that have been complaining about the new laws for airplanes. It's very in-depth, so they've made it more clear. When you can see people walking through, you can just see their faces and that sort of thing. But some people have really complained. They don't want like an x-ray sort of thing, or they're embarrassed because you can see everything. There's about 400 of those at airports all over the United States. And I'm wondering, why are they becoming more strict on everything? Well, there are some recent activities from Yemen that have been sent to Chicago, and they caught those people in England. And they had some explosives in a can. That machine is definitely more rigid. In Detroit, do you remember the man who had something in his pocket and it got overlooked? He went through, and because of that machine, they caught him, they patted him down. Or if people refuse the machine, they can in turn opt for a pat down. But that would be worse, I think. People like touching you and feeling you and stuff. Kathy Bosey from North Carolina, she worked for one of the airlines. She worked at the airport. I mean, I know people feel worse about this, but, because they can see everything, but really, I'm fine with it. So I felt something on the right side, and I said, that's my fake breast. And like, I want to see it. So I reach in and take it out and show it. It was awful. And they put down the name and everything. And she's like, I work here. I don't want to take out my breast every time I come to work. It's called prosthetics. Like either false breasts or a false arm or, a false leg. I mean, maybe people have a hip replacement or they have like a heart replacement. I mean, how are they going to feel you up for that? Kind of, I don't know, it's kind of disturbing. There's one person that always had to deal with it for like 20 years when they worked there. They'd get felt up and patted down. There's like 13 million women have fake breasts. So, I mean, what are they going to do? Are they going to like feel those up every time on every single person? I don't know. People staring at you while you're taking your breast out? I mean, that's just. Are you just going to lay it in the box and let it go through the x ray machine? I don't know. It's almost better not to even use it. I mean, it's kind of discrimination. It just. It's very. It makes you angry. Marlene McCarthy. She recently went through one of those machines and something went off. And so all the people, were on there, and one of them were holding that, and it was her fake breast. And so they took it and they examined it, and they're like, okay, but it's so embarrassing. And they're like feeling up her breast. So the next time they just put it, in the box with the jewelry and everything like that. And then they see it and they're like, oh gosh. She's like, I don't care. I'm not going to go through that again. It's very upsetting. There's another woman from California, Shireen Kiss, and she was 16 years old. She had a pacemaker for her heart. She would fly for work regularly. I mean, recently she went there and she was very embarrassed because they were trying to, find out why she was doing this, and they were inside her pants and inside her shirt trying to find this, and they're telling her she can't fly. I mean, what about wheelchairs? They have to go down the ramp, and they say, no, you have to leave that at home. I mean, it's almost like it's destroying their rights. It's like the government is taking advantage of me if I want to go on the airplane. It's just not right. Another woman from Missouri. She was from Blue Springs, Missouri. 5 years ago, she had a broken hip and had to have it replaced. And of course, she set off the alarm because of the metal in her hip. They did it. They would pat her down and everything. And then last week, they said she went through there, this new machine, and they looked at her and they didn't have to pat her down at all. She was very happy with that. And the doctors had told her that it wouldn't be an issue. When she got to New Orleans, however, or whichever it was, I don't know if she's flying there or flying back, they didn't have the new x-ray machine. So it was worse. They had to touch everything on her. It was very uncomfortable. So it's like they're just taking advantage of people. In Nashville, they had written an email about a prosthetic leg. And they said, I feel like the airport has raped me. They take off my leg, they take me out of my wheelchair, they touch and feel me everywhere. They're just like, stop. Just stop. Another situation happened in Texas. This was with a gentleman, and he had bladder cancer. So he had the bag, the colostomy on the side. So November 7th, he flew to be with his family, and he went to the airport. And of course, he got taken, and he was very embarrassed because his bag had come open. He had pee all over. So that it's a very sensitive bag, and if it doesn't stay completely shut, then the urine will leak. And he told him, he said, I have health problems, it's kind of private, please. And they go through all the lists and everything, but he says, I want this to be private. So they took him into an office, and he explained that, the bag is inside his pants. So he had to take them off. And he says, just a second. And he was trying to explain it, and they just didn't care. They just wanted to pat him down, and that was it. So he took off his shirt, his sweater, actually. And they're like, what's that bag for? So they run the hand flat down, and he says, don't go down, because this bag will, leak. You'll rip the bag. And the guy didn't pay attention, and sure enough, as he's doing that, of course he's like, oh, I'm sorry, can I help you? Nothing. He didn't care. There was no remorse at all. And of course, it's awkward walking through the airport now, waiting for the plane to take off. He had to go to the bathroom and get cleaned up. The the TSA regulations, they just don't care about people's health problems and, anything else that's a private matter. Now, we went to Orlando and came back, and there was no problem there. And I plan to file with the TSA, with the state rep, the president, everybody send off my letters to discuss for the group. They'll read my complaint. Maybe they'll look at the website, that I'll add on. There is a website that says you are allowed privacy. So if someone doesn't allow you that, they're breaking the rules. And if you have a colostomy or a prosthetic leg or a false breast, something of that nature, they can't force you to take it off. So that's breaking the rules again for that lady who had to take her breast out, and the man who had to take his leg off. I mean, the rule says you don't have to do that. So there definitely needs to be a complaint about that. And there is an advocacy group. Because there's a lot of people who have those colostomy bags. But they really need to train their workers. I mean, how are they going to know about this bag and how to handle it if they're not trained? It says the government plans to continue with this anyway. I mean, there are different options, but I don't know. Some people are very frustrated with the pat downs. Some people are, with like having to take out your breast and stuff. It just seems like that's the only way. You remember like the Christmas in Detroit? Of course, the president of the TSA, they have their own airplanes. They don't have to go through security. They don't have to experience this. In Germany, they call it like a highlighter where they can see everything. And they're definitely more strict, and that's why. For the people who are driving the airplanes, they don't have to do the pat downs. TSA a week ago said, okay, all right, now we have to. If you're flying, an airplane, or you're in uniform, or you work for the airport, you do have to show like 2 picture IDs, from the airline and from the government. And if you're scheduled to work that day, they match you up, then you're fine. But there's a lot of people who work every day there. It's not good for them if they've got to go through this every day. I mean, I trust those people who are in charge of the airplane, otherwise I wouldn't be getting on. There's a woman from LA, California. For years, she flew back and forth to Toledo, Ohio for Christmas. This year, she says, no. She said, if I buy a ticket, that means I have to allow someone to touch me all over.